I've been shooting 360 images for many years, and I use them in many different ways. I've used them for scouting locations, for feature films and television shows and still fashion shoots. I've shot events, weddings and meetings, ceremonies at the United Nations. I've used them to bring people to places they could not otherwise experience themselves, the top of the Brooklyn Bridge. It really allows the viewer to enter into an environment in an immersive fashion. Since I've started shooting with the RICOH THETA Z1, I've found that I am able to shoot panoramas in many more places than I had before. The recoverable shadow detail and dynamic range of this camera allows me to shoot in much darker environments than I could in earlier cameras which did not deliver DNG files. And the results are very impressive, I have to say. Shooting a location like Odaiba, I try to find a camera position which gives me a pleasing symmetrical panorama where I have interesting objects and detail all around, as well as whatever featured landmarks there might be nearby. I may use a very tall pole as I did in that case. I'll try to get an exposure which will allow me to recover the highlights in a cloudy sky, as well as not underexpose the detail on the ground. And then afterwards, I can easily download the image right to my smartphone so I can be sure that I got the range that I expected. Shooting in a small location like Shibuya Nombe Yokocho, the Theta Z1 is really ideal for this because it's very small and unobtrusive, allows me to put it right on the counter without pushing all the food out of the way or disrupting the people who are running their business there. And in this type of environment, because I have people moving, I want to keep the exposure within a certain range, and it's also very dark. Basic concept when I edit the image is to depict the image both realistically as well as artistically in a manner that shows the feeling and spirit of the location as well as what someone would see if they were actually sitting there. And with the DNG files, I can also adjust the lighting to show it better than it may have actually looked in real life. So a balance between creative and realistic. After shooting, the first step is to import the files into Adobe Lightroom. Then you open the dual fisheye DNG RAW files in the develop module, where we can recover, try to figure out what highlights we do not want blown out, add a little bit of, bring up some of the shadows. We can add a bit of clarity to punch it up a bit. We can adjust the white balance if necessary, although here it seems very good. We would also go into the darker areas of the image where we would remove some noise. Might be hard to see here, but in this case about 24, and then add a little bit of sharpening to recover that. We would then also always remember to fix chromatic aberration, which is a one-click adjustment in Lightroom. Then, when we have a good look on the image, let's just add a little bit, bring up the exposure just a little bit, bring down the highlights just a little bit more. We would then go into the RICOH THETA Z1 Stitcher plugin for Lightroom, which I have set as a preset here. We give this a minute to do its thing. In the Z1 Stitcher, we have the option of adjusting the center of the image with the yaw slider, which in this case, we are going to slide it all the way over there. No, we're going to leave it in the center, I think. Just zero that, no? Very good. And click OK. You could also adjust the level of the horizon. Here it's set properly to begin with. Click OK, wait a moment. Go back into Lightroom where we have our stitched panorama. And in this case, number 2 stitch. Then we would apply some more correction to the equirectangular panorama. In this case, we would perhaps bring down the highlights a little bit more. We would perhaps bring up the shadows a little bit, add a little bit more clarity and contrast. That looks very good. We could then compare the result to the original JPEG, which is right here, to see the difference between an out-of-camera JPEG and a properly developed RAW file. We can see we have much more detail in the darkest areas of the image. We can read all of these small signs, which in this space looks fantastic. We have good detail. We still have some noise we can fix here in the equirectangular. Again, by going into the same sliders in Lightroom as we worked with the dual fisheye DNG. Get rid of pretty much all the noise, add a little bit of sharpness where necessary, and voila, that looks very good. And again, compare that to the original JPEG, and it's a huge difference in the JPEG to the DNG. We can see we have much more detail in the darker areas of the image. We can see all the detail in these doors. We can see much more detail in the wood. There's very little noise here. This is a very, very pleasing result. Very happy with this image. The Theta Z1 allows me to shoot 360 photography, which is something I've been doing for a long time. The RICOH Theta Z1 allows me to have a small, compact 360 camera, which allows me to shoot 360 photos in situations that would not have been possible or practical before, using a larger camera rig and tripod and full-size DSLR. This camera produces excellent results, which are very pleasing and very simple workflow. Boom! Z1, yes! I like it.